Hello and welcome to hobby vlog number 143. This week has largely been about my reuse of XPS project, though I have done a fair few other bits and pieces. I've felt like I've not done very much, so I'm going to be very interested to see how long this video ends up being. But best thing that happened this week, two best things actually. One, Rosie actually got involved in making things with me, which is absolutely brilliant. And secondly, I've got back to the build of the Canberra for memory of my dad, which obviously means a lot, and that's going really well. Anyway, you'll see all about that if you watch the video, so I really hope you enjoy it. Do let me know in the comments below what you think, and yeah, I'll see you again at the end. So next up, I'm going to base coat these black. This is going to take a little bit of time. I've just mixed up some more of my terrain paint, which is watered down, house paint mixed with PVA, about 50-50, and then a slug of water so that you get it to the correct kind of like runniness that you want. And yeah, then I put some dish soap or washing up liquid, depending on which side of the Atlantic you inhabit, and that acts as a flow improver as well, but also prevents it going off, so it stops it going mouldy, which is always a useful thing. And so I'll paint over the entire thing, both the carved bit and also the underground bit, the rocks and sand, the ground level, the ground level bit. And then when that's all done, and it might take 2 coats to get a good covering, but that's fine, don't rush. Something that's worth doing is worth doing right. So when you dry, you might find patches that you missed, just go in and touch them off, it's fine. When that's done, I will come back and show you the next step, which will be dry brushing, which I do a whole lot on this channel, and regulars will know about, and I'm sure that other people will as well, because it's a very popular technique, but I'll still show it, because, hey, we all have to learn. If we don't know, then why not watch? Why not watch me do it? Anyway, enough rambling. This is just going to be a slow process, as you can see, picking away at it. And what I'll probably do is pick a place to hold, which I can use to rotate this piece in particular, and then touch it off when it's sitting down. When it's sat down on the tray, I can finish it off. For these are going to be a little bit more difficult. This one will be fine because I've got quite a large upright, but this one I'm going to need to basically find a thumb hole, probably in the middle, and do the same thing, paint around it and then finish off on that bit there. Anyway, I'll get that done and bring you back for the next step when I get to it. Well, I didn't record it, but I just made a huge mess, shaking up my brown. The lid wasn't quite shut on one side, and so it just went everywhere, all over the floor and all over the bench. So I used a spatula to scrape up what I could and put it onto this plate, because what I'm going to do now, and the next step on these things, is to dry brush in some different colours. And one of the colours I'm going to dry brush is brown, and I'm also going to dry brush the stones with like blues and oranges and purples and what have you. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the brown, because that's what I've got. So dry brushing, you've seen the technique already, the same technique as I used to do the underneath. And the reason I don't go straight to brown normally on these is because I like to have the variation. I think it makes it look a little bit nicer, and it just gives the impression that there might be some different types of soil or whatever going on than just a normal brown. So these two, this one and this one, are going to be basically pretty much dry brush brown and then flocked, and then they're done. So we're getting close to finishing on this, which is good. And the other one's going to be a little more interesting because they're more rocky outcrops. And look at the mess I've made. Terrible, isn't it? So yeah, we're just going to build this up. And what you can always do is come back with, if you find that you've done a little bit too much like I have there, you can see I better come back with some greys and what have you, and tone that back again easily enough. So there's never you've never gone too far. You can always go back over your work and improve it. So anyway, there's those two done. The other one that I did was this one, which doesn't have any black as a cover. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some brown on this, but not all over it. So I'm going to leave that little kind of like broken up area, and I'm going to focus everywhere else. So there's that one, and that one now will be ready for some flocking. So the slightly different ones, this one I'm going to do something totally different, so I'll put that away and bring you back in another clip for that one. This one I do want to have some brown in areas, which I can then work some grass and other what have yous on it. So there we are, that's how quick that is. And the same with these. I want to be able to sell the fact that there might be some greenery on top, which just adds to the interest. Basically that's what you're looking at doing here. So there we are, whole lot of dry brushing. And I've got one more actually. I've made a lot of these. This has been a really fun project. I know I keep saying that, but it really has. So we'll get this one as well. There we are. Right. There we go. You can sell that as a nice green tussock with some rocks on one side. So what I'm going to do is keep tidying up here, get that paint back into the pot because I am that tight, and then I'll bring you back in a bit to show you how I'm going to do all of the different colours on the rocks. So I've done the orangey kind of brown on that, which as you can see has worked out really nicely. It's a very nice colour. I'll be doing a load of dry brushing on it as well. What I'm now going to do is turn this protuberance, menhir, whatever you want to call it, and do it in a sandy colour, which is white grout mixed with the sand from my backyard. And I might even come along and paint this white because I want this to be quite striking, but white grout on, as an underneath is what I've decided to do. So I'll probably take 2 coats to do this as well, and I'll bring it back once it's dried and when I'm doing the next step. But yeah, really pleased with how this whole building concept is turning out. It was a little bit of a sudden idea with these 2 shapes, and I do think it's looking really well. So I'll get this painted on and then let it dry, maybe do 2 coats as I say, and I'll bring it back when I get to the next step, which probably will be either painting this if I decide I want it to be a brighter white, or dry brushing the rest. Or maybe both at the same time, we shall see. Anyway, there's the first coat done while I've been nattering. Never takes long to do a small piece like this. Let it dry, another coat, maybe 3 coats on this, because it's white so it doesn't have quite as much coverage as a coloured paint, coloured grout. But yeah, there it is. Cool. Right, let that dry now, and I'll stop rambling as well. Alright, so what I've got here is 3 different, well, 2 blues and 1 purple, and I'm going to do this particular chunk of stone as kind of a blue dry brush. So we'll start with the darkest blue, and when you're doing something like this, you really do want to be subtle, so you want to take most of your paint off. And what we're going to do is we're just going to come along and dry brush. So I will put some music on and you can watch how this develops. Well, there we are. That took 2 minutes since I turned the camera on and started talking to do that. So very little time, and that now looks absolutely brilliant. It's got really nice colours that are really natural looking, but also nice and striking and a bit different. So yeah, that's the first one. I'm now going to pick some other colours and do the same technique on some of the other outcroppings. So yeah, I might do some oranges on the next one, I think. What I'll probably do is put some music on and just do all the dry brushing, and if I have anything to say then I'll say it at the end once I've finished. So hopefully that will inspire you to pick some crazy colours for your own rocks. And that dry brushing was fun, turned out really, really nicely. As you saw, I picked some really crazy colours, particularly pleased with the hot pink. But yeah, you can always go crazy with colours on rocks. It just makes them pop and look really cool and fun on your tabletop. And if you go outside and walk around and look at rocks, you will see that they are all sorts of colours. So now we're going to come to these ones, the ones that I dry brushed with the brown. And you can see this is something that hasn't been out for quite a long time. These are all my homemade flocks that I really like using. So I'll do most of this off camera again because it's a lot of repetitiveness. But what I'm going to do is put some glue onto this, and I probably won't do the whole at once. I might come back and do this in multiple stages, but that'll do for now. And then we're going to start applying some flocks. So my traditional technique, which I'm going to go back to, which, as I say, I've not done for ages, so I've been trying to use up some shop bought flocks. But my traditional technique is to pick the dark flock first, put some of that on, then go for like a medium flock, which is what this is, and scatter that on like so, because grass isn't all the same colour, it's got lots of variation in it. And then what I do is I come along with a very much lighter one here and scatter that on, just letting it dribble over like so. And then last but not least, what I do is I come back with the same dark one, which is why I always run out of this dark one. I need to make some more, and just tie it together with that. And there we are. You get a really nice, realistic looking texture of the flock. So I'll come and do the edges when that's dried. And what I'm now going to do is work on all these. This one will just be patchy, this one up here, but these are all going to be complete grassed areas. And I'll probably come back after I've done this and do some static grass, which obviously I'll do on camera. But yeah, getting close to finishing this now. I've got the archway to do, and I've got the house to finish, and I've got the scatter rocks to finish. And as it happens, I have 2 more pieces left of the original batch, which is here. So these are 3 more. There's one here as well. So I have 3 more pieces. So I'm going to come up with something for that, and I do have an idea, but I'll show you what I'll do with those when I get them. But I think I'm going to finish all the ones I've got on the go, or at least get them close to finish before I start doing something. Start doing those last 3. So yeah, get these flocked, and I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. So Rosie's going to help me, aren't you, love? So what we're going to do, going to take some glue, and we're just going to paint it very gently over the top of that. And what we're doing here is we're sealing in the green flock. So can you do that? Here you go. Good girl. Just paint it all over, just very gently paint it, and when you run out, dip it back in the paint, in the glue, like that, and then do it again. There we are, brush it around, spread it all around. There we are, that is how we seal our flock. Good girl, Rosie. That's very good. A little bit more. A little bit more. Good girl, now take that out. Let's just scrape it a bit. You took a little bit too much that time. Don't want it dripping on the floor. There you go. Go, go, go. There you go. You do it. You do it. Don't worry about that. That's fine. We need to cover the whole thing with glue. Do the whole thing with glue. Very good girl. Yeah. Good girl. Keep going. Just get some more glue. Get some more glue. Let's get it close to you. There we are. There we are. Now take it out and paint it on somewhere else where you don't keep going over the same bit. There you go. Good girl. And we need to do that over all of the grass on that one and all the grass on all of them. So yeah, well done. Thank you for your help, Rosie. Very good, yes. A little bit more glue. Don't dip it too much in, otherwise it will drip. You see it's dripping, so that's it. Just brush it on the edge. Very good. And now take it over, quick before it drips, and paint it on. Good girl. There we are. Good girl. Right, while I'm thinking about what other colours to dry brush on this bridge, arch, whatever you want to call it, section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the ladder that's going to go up the side. So I've got these barbecue skewers, bamboo skewers, and what I'm going to do is cut them to the right height. I might have them going just a little bit taller than the actual wood bit, the actual stone bit, so that they kind of protrude a bit over the top, which will be quite nice. And then once I've got those two lengths, what I'll be doing is, sorry for the crinkling, I'll be using these, which are just matchsticks with no sulphur on the end, to do the rungs. So first thing I'm going to do is measure and cut this. Second thing I'm going to do is measure and cut lots and lots of these. So I'll do all of that, get my materials prepared, and then I'll bring you back when I start the assembly. But I'm going to need to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 18, probably 18 of these to the correct dimensions. So yeah, I'll get that done and then bring you back for the next step very shortly. Okay, so I have cut a whole load of these, which are the rungs for the ladder. And what I've got is I've got out my nice little magnetic tray, which I'm going to use now just for the initial setup. So I'm not going to stick very many rungs on at this stage, because I want to actually have it up against the rise, so that I get the top rung in the correct place. But I do know roughly where the bottom rung needs to go, which is there, and I'm going to put another one randomly somewhere else. Those 2 or maybe 3 will be enough to hold the whole thing secure when I take it out of this metal tray, offer it up in place, and I can then put the other rungs in and really make it look exactly how I want it to. Now the challenge you've got here is, because I'm using a round barbecue skewers, they will rotate if you're not careful, and that can cause you to miss your glue point. But I managed to do it then without missing my glue point. So what I'm going to do now is stick this next one in, and then I will leave it for a good while to fully go off. I'm not going to be in a rush on this. But what I did do, in the interest of this being like a recycling, no waste build, or very minimal waste, is I've saved all the offcuts from when I did my cutting of my matchsticks, and I think I'm going to use them to build a little kind of like fence along the front, or along either side of those. So I may end up trimming down some more and using them. The other thing is I have the 2 spikes. So basically all this will get stained up and then attached. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do with these is I'm going to use them on this edge. I need to zoom it out very briefly so you can see. So I'm going to put them on this edge and then run a rope down, so that the access here would be by rope and the access here would be by this ladder I'm making now. So I'm going to try to reuse all the bits and not have any waste wood from this process. So we'll see how well that goes and how it looks. But yeah, so I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll bring it back probably when I'm assembling the rest of the ladder to show you how I go about working out where things will go. Well, there, what I've done there is offered up these little bits of matchstick just to kind of work out roughly where I want them to sit, and I'm pretty happy with how that's looking, to be honest. So I'll probably put one more in there, and then actually I didn't have any waste because I cut the right number. So what I'll do now is glue them in place. So just a little dab of super glue on both sides, and then drop it in. Now if you're impatient and really want to speed this along, then you can use it's baking soda to speed up the curing process. But to be honest, it dries pretty quick, it goes up pretty quick. It's quite humid here as well at the moment, which makes a big difference. So I'm not going to bother basically. I'm just going to do it with only super glue, a little dip of each, and then put it down. And then when that's all done and gone off, then we'll stain it and glue it in place, and I'll stain all the other little bits of wood that I mentioned and stick those in place as well. So I'll get that done and bring you along when I get to the next step. I've just dry brushed these pieces just in the normal way. And what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to have this monolith black, and because dry brushing is inherently slightly messy, I've got a little bit of the grey on the stone, which I don't want, because I want to do it I want it to be quite striking. And that's not completely unnatural. These sorts of things do exist in nature, but even if they didn't, I'd do it anyway, because I could say it was supernatural, or well, it's my own world, so never mind, sort of thing. So yeah, just touch it up, get the any grey off, done. And next, when that's all dry, I'll come along and do some grass, and then that'll be finished. It's really, really looking good now. Really happy with this. So the next stage I've decided to do on this is actually a bit of varnishing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this varnish, which is matte, but I'm going to use it to seal the whole thing. So I could use PVA, but what I'm thinking is I want to get a little bit of depth on this, because I'm then going to come along and varnish this with gloss varnish. Now, the gloss varnish would eat any exposed foam, so this is why I'm thinking of varnishing it. But also, if you put a couple of coats of matte varnish on and then a coat of gloss varnish, you can get a really nice look of depth. And I want this to look like some kind of volcanic shiny rock rather than just the normal run-of-the-mill stuff. So I'm going to paint this on very carefully. A bit difficult sometimes to avoid getting bubbles with this stuff, so you just need to take your time. And I'll probably do several coats, and then I'll come along with the gloss varnish to finish it off and give it that shine. So yeah, I'll get this done. I'll let you know how many coats I do, if I remember, and hopefully this will end up being a really nice effect. I've done a couple of coats of the matte varnish and it has come out super shiny. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to add any gloss varnish to that or not. I'm gonna have a think. But that's given a really nice effect, which is pretty much what I was looking for, so that's good. So what I'm going to do now is put some paint onto these ladder and those spikes, and also onto these little bits and pieces that were left over from making the ladder. And I'm going to make use of my raw umber, Winsor & Newton raw umber, which I really like. And yeah, so what I do with this is I actually unscrew the lid, and I use the lid top, having given it a good shake, because that way I'm not going to knock it over and waste loads or spill it. And so yeah, just going to come along and paint this in this dark brown as a base, and I'll then, once that's done and dry, I will then come along and dry brush it to bring out some highlights and bring it up. So I don't actually want it to be this dark, but this is just a really good kind of starter colour. And if you're wondering how I'm going to paint these, it's just going to be messy for me, so I'll just hold them. And that, there we are, it's just going to get paint all over my fingers. So I'll get that done, and when that's finished and I've got it painted both sides and it's all dry, and I'm coming to dry brush, and I'll bring you back for that. And obviously I'll think about what I'm going to do with shininess there. And the next thing that I'm going to look at doing on this project is the dry brushing and highlighting for this, which I'm going to do before I stick down the little wooden bits there, because they'll just get knocked off if I'm dry brushing over them. So yeah, cracking on, good progress. Well, it has truly been far, far too long since I did any work on this. This is, of course, the Canberra, which is my father's favourite plane. And that there, oops, if it will stay in shot, that there, oh, it's not even in shot, I've not got it focused, is a bit of PE, a bit of photo etch. And this is why I'm rubbish at these things, because that is tiny. Look at it, that little thing there. I've just spent a few minutes pulling it off the photo etch sprue, so it's these. They are actually the seat belts, and you can see that I have made the cockpit, and I decided to not bother putting them on, but I've now decided I'm going to give it a go. So let's see. I am not very good at this. So what we're going to do is see if there's any glue in this glue first of all. There is. Oh, way too much there. Let's just waste it over here. There we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dab of glue in here, just there, and a dab of glue at the bottom. And then I'm going to try, this is very hard to keep in focus because it's so tiny, so let's see if this works. I will not do any more of these on camera, and if this fails I'll probably swear and give up. So I've just taken that out of shot just to make sure I've got it the right way around, because it is actually a specific way round and a specific up down, I believe. So there we are. So what we want, these needle-nose pliers are superb. Look at them there. It's just so tiny. Right, let's see if we can do this. Let's get this in. Wow. I only went and did it. Look at that. I did it. I didn't get it very well in shot, obviously, because it's a bit fiddly. But I did it. I did it. So now I've got to do 5 more, which are not going to be done on camera. But there we are. Great joy, great pleasure for me to get back to this. I stopped doing it for so long because I just didn't feel competent or capable for some reason. I felt like I was going to fail, and it's a very important build for me. So I stopped. But that's no way to act, is it? So I've started again. Anyway, once I've glued these on, I'm going to paint the cockpit area. Let me zoom out a little bit more. It's just super zoomed in. I'm also going to paint the interior of the cockpit area inside the actual fuselage, and then the next bit is gluing the 2 parts together with the cockpit inside. So that's why I need to get those painted and done. So yeah, let's. I'm going to crack on a little bit more with these. This photo etch. There is actually some photo etch which supposedly is going to go on this bit here, which I might do as well if this goes well. And then I'll bring you back once I've finished painting. That's the next time I'll bring you onto this project, and when I'm about to glue them together. I'm not going to do very many regular updates on this. I think that's also one of the reasons I kind of put off. I just want to enjoy it, but I will keep the vlog appraised of how it goes, and when it's finished, obviously I'll be very pleased. So yeah, a really nice way to spend the end of a very enjoyable day. We went to Greece today, had a fantastic time, and this is a really nice way just to relax after lots of driving and think about my dad, which is always a good thing. Right, so now what I'm going to do is a little bit of dry brushing of these bits of wood. As you can see, it's very quick to do, and will give a really nice kind of like dusty, slightly older wood look than the darker that I'd done. And then we can stick that on, and then we're nearly done with this. I've decided against doing any more colours in the stone. I'm just going to do this one quite plain. Done some quite funky colours on the others, so this one I think it'll look a little bit more unnatural, and that's kind of what the effect I'm actually going for on this one. I want it to look like it's been chiselled and it's not a natural structure. So there we are. So we've got ourselves those painted. So the next thing to do will be this. We'll get glued on there, like that. And then these are going to go at the top of this slope. So I will wash my brush, move the camera, and get that done. Right, so a little bit of PVA, and we're going to get this stuck on. So I'm just going to paint the PVA down the back. Doesn't need to have too much. Just paint it all the way down the uprights, and then we'll stick it in place. Sorry about the drilling that's going on outside. It's not actually my builders. There is quite a lot of renovation going on in my village at the moment, and that is another house that's being renovated and making a racket right now. So yeah, so we'll put that there. And what I might actually do is get a weight on that. Not sure how. Well, I'm going to have a think about how I'm actually going to hold that in place while it dries. And then I'll come back and I'll do the spikes in another clip, because that probably needs to dry, otherwise it will just fall off. So yeah, I might be able to clamp it there, and that might be enough. Let me see. There. Yeah, that's going to be good. So I can get some of these clamps on, like this, and hold it in place there. And then just about, yeah, that should work. Could probably clamp it like that there. This is a little bit fiddly. No, that didn't work. Can I do that? Yeah, there we are. There we are, right. So I'll leave that for a couple of hours actually, and come back and I'll do the spikes as a separate clip, because yeah, I really don't want that to fall off. I had a little bit of damage on this, and so I tried to use some orange paint to cover it up, and it's a totally different colour, which is typical, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean into that, and I'm going to get some of these oranges, and I'm just going to put some blotches and make it look like there's maybe some water damage. I'm not going to try and stick too much to a colour as such. That needs to be shaken up because it's a bit separated. There we are. Yeah, so I'm not going to try and stick too much to a specific colour, but I'm just going to kind of put some little bits of what might look like runnels coming down from the top, and I will also use that to cover up any areas where there might be a little bit of damage. And once that's done, I will come along and do some dry brushing, which should then tone the difference of these down a little bit. So that's my plan anyway. So yeah, just a few little runnels, just to add a little bit of detail, a little bit of interest. Of course, I've still got to put the wooden spikes along the front here as well, but I'll do that once I've finished all the painting. That'll be the last touch. So yeah, let's get that done. Won't take long. Nearly finished already. And then when that's dried, I will look at the next step, which probably should actually be a ladder here, I think, or some way of getting up to the top, because this could be quite an interesting 3D structure as well, to be honest. There we are. Just a little bit of variety in the colour. Well, we went to Fenari again this week, and so I'm going to put the next of the memory board on. You can see it's this stuff here. I should add that Rosie does pick most of these things up herself. I picked up these and the feather. These were actually underwater, but she picks up most of these things and collects them, gives them to me to bring home and put on the board. So this is very much a collaborative process. But yeah, so I'll get these stuck on. We do have another planned trip to go in a month or so, so we should fill the top. And what I'm actually realising is I probably should have moved that a little bit further over, because I'm struggling a little bit for space. But if I can put these in nice and close, then I should be able to get another picture and some more on the top, and that should be our 3 trips to Greece this year, and then we'll have the space underneath for maybe next year. So yeah, so I'll get those glued down. The stones I'll do with the strong glue that I have, the rest I'll do with super glue, and what I'm going to do after that is actually come along with some of my varnish. If I just lift that down, I have this matte varnish, and I'm going to paint that over the pictures, just so that they have a little bit of protection. So yeah, really cool. So that's the second entry onto our multiple memory board, and yeah, some really cool things that Rosie found. Really lovely, and a really nice day, as you can see from the picture. Rosie had a great time. Right, now I'm happy with these. What I'm going to do is dry brush around the edges where I'm going to have the dirt, and then after that we'll put some flock on, and then these are done. We really are flying along on this project now, which is good because I've got another one of these to start. Actually, I've got a load of cardboard, so the next in this series is going to be making scatter terrain out of waste cardboard, and I've got all sorts of awesome ideas for that. I've properly enjoyed this one though. I think what I've got is some of my favourite terrain I've ever made, particularly this, that shiny black. Now I haven't actually put any gloss varnish on that. That's the matte varnish, which is a bit odd. It's not very matte, but okay. I just think it looks superb. Right, I'll wait 20 minutes, half an hour for that to dry, and then I'll put the flock on, which will be in the same way as I did before, so I won't show you that. And then that will be these done. Then I just need to wrap up the building and do the ropes on the archway, and then this first tranche is done, and all I've got left are, as I've said a couple of times, these three, which I do have an idea for, so they'll probably be started next. Okay, so the ladder is glued on nicely now, as you can see, looking great. So what I'm going to do now is stick these stakes on, and then we'll look at putting the rope ladder on, and then pretty much we'll be done on this, I think. So I'm going to do it to one side rather than in the centre, so you can imagine that you'd be able to kind of haul yourself up and I'll put it a bit more of an angle there. Haul yourself up and then swing round to the run past. So there we are, that's that, and then just a little dip of glue in the middle, just my finger. We'll keep those two connected, and then what we'll do is we'll grab some string, which is here, and we can tie it around that. Now, I don't want to go too overboard, however I think I can probably, clumsy as I am, still manage to do something a bit cool like that. There we are, that makes it a bit better. And then tie that off, like so. Put a double knot. And then what I'll do is I will snip that tail off so that it's not sticking up, but I'll wait for it all to dry and be a bit more secure. And then I'll cut a length, have it draping down here, and then I'll put a knot every couple of centimetres, and that then can be how you get yourself up there. So you literally walk up pulling yourself up it, basically like that. Cool. So there we are, what a cool little piece. Very, very happy. Okay, so I've done the knots, and I've just had the idea of putting some little kind of like hoops of metal just to keep it from flying all over the place, make it a little bit tidier. So this is actually quite hard to cut, this wire. I used it to make a tree for Battle Games in Middle Earth, and it's very, very thick. Takes some cutting, I can tell you. I can get there. There we are, you see. And then 2 pliers to bend it into shape, like so. Like that. Got ourselves a nice little U. And then some drying up PVA, which was just left on the plate, and then push it in, like that. And there we are. The rope will still move, but it's not going to flop around all over the place. So I'm going to cut another couple, probably 2 more, one there, and then that will be done. I'm very, very pleased with how that's looking. It's a really cool little thing. Good to be able to have access up here, and to get a really, I mean, if you put archers up here, you've got a dominating view of the battlefield for sure. All right then, let's go for some dry brushing now. So this is a lovely strong yellow, so I should have enough on that now to do what I want to do, because what I'm going to do is come along and make this building glow. I do think that dry brushing is like this magic cheat code for terrain. I don't actually use it for miniatures, which is odd because I use it so much for terrain. It's just brilliant. Let's make it do it. So I'll get this dry brushed with this colour. I might do some more. If I do, I'll bring you back. when I get to it. But yeah, just going to keep doing that. Well, this is proving to be quite a difficult kit to put together, and I'm not sure whether I blame the kit or my lack of ability. It's more likely to be my lack of ability, but you can see just how much of a gap there is at the front here. I probably didn't do anything right at all, and so that's why it's wrong. But what I'm hoping I can do is sand some of this down, fill some of those gaps and make it look good enough, and that's just going to be the experiment, and that's what's going to happen, because yeah, this is now buttoned up and glued, as you can see, lots of clamps holding it together, but I've got a problem at the front of the fuselage and inside the cockpit. First model like this I've made for quite a long time, so I probably have made mistakes, but if I show you the instructions, they're not really very good. And the angle at this back bit here, for example, is very important, and that wasn't clear. And fitting this little bit on here, which is the piece underneath, which goes there, was really rather annoying as well. However, it's buttoned up. I've got to that stage. Gonna let that all dry now, then try to close that up and fix up this cockpit mistake I've made, and then it's going to be the case of putting on all the little bits and pieces, attaching the wings, and then painting it. So yeah, very pleased to be getting on with this. A bit disappointed that it's not going to be as perfect as I wanted, but it's going to be as good as I can do it, and that's all that matters. And it's going to be a wonderful memory of my dad, and that's really all that matters. Well, here we are, it's all stuck together, and as you can see, there's space to the right of it for another visit. She did pick up more things than I managed to fit on, which I just have here actually. So these will just go into the generic pile now for use, and you'll see them in a video at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, it was a really nice trip, and this is a really nice way to remember it. So yeah, really simple idea, really does add a lot to hang on the wall. Yeah, it doesn't take them much time, and these frames are pretty cheap, so yeah, a nice way to memorialise awesome trips to the beach. And I will add the one with my mother, which will be happening in a few weeks' time, to the right hand side there in that gap, and then this will finally be on the wall until next year, I think. So I've been busy cutting more wood, making more frames for my tiles, warp-free tiles, which are fantastic, I love them. But something has been really bothering me about it, and I've just been sat staring. And the fact is that I've done them a really odd size. So the size of them is 48 centimeters, which is neither here nor there. It's not 2 foot, it's not 1.5 foot, just over. It's just nonsense, and it's not going to be easy for me to fit them on my table, to fit them on normal size tables, 4-foot tables. 2 is too small, 3 is massively overlapping, as you can see here with the arrangement I've made. If you look at this, that's overlapping massively, and that's even more than 4 foot wide. So I was thinking, well, just make them a foot each, 30 centimeters each. But if you look at these ones here, this was my Battle Games with Earth tiles that I made for Lothlorien. If I do it to 30 centimeters, that's here, and that's going to cut right the way through, and there's no way I can kind of position that to make that work. However, I've just thought if I do that to 45 centimeters, there might be. So I can cut it here and cut it here, and that, which is what will be cut off, is okay. I've got a little bit more of an issue going this way, where I'm probably going to have to lose some of this little bit of air dry clay, but it's going to work all right. The issue, and this is rather annoying, the issue I'm going to have with my water tiles for this is I did this, the islands and what have you, as 50-50, so they're exactly halfway along, where if you look at this as a 48 centimeter side. But if I'm going to cut this down to 45, then that's going to mean that these are no longer quite so flexible. However, I'm happy to actually take that pain, because as it stands at the moment, these are they're not usable really, are they? So I've not done many already. Most of them, I haven't done any really since the Battle Games in Middle-earth build. So actually just looking here, there's only 2 more, and I think these are also going to be doable quite easily. So we've got an island one, and we've got this, which again I can cut here, and that's actually going to be okay. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm not sure whether I'm going to just put it through the table saw and hope it doesn't chew up too much, or whether I'm going to cut it by hand, get a handsaw. But yeah, that's going to be a bit of a challenge. The ones that I've got downstairs that I've already cut, I've made one, I think, a couple of the frames, but not stuck anything on top. And I've cut a load to length that I'm going to need to trim down. So there's going to be a little bit of waste. It's a little bit frustrating, but I think it's what I need to do, because otherwise they're not really going to be very usable for gaming, and what's the point of them otherwise? So yeah, I will also have to take the rest of the pieces that I've made, the rest of the things that I've made, and trim them down. Now that's going to be a little bit of an issue when it comes to this, because if I measure here, 45 actually is right to the edge of the bridge, so that might actually work out okay. That's lucky. And then I can look to trim down off the edges of that. So there's going to be quite a bit of work for me to do. It won't take long. So it will take long. It won't be a quick one. There's quite a lot of tiles to adjust. But yeah, this is what happens when you make stupid mistakes. So you just have to kind of deal with it. And now moving forward, I'll be able to make more tiles in this style that will actually fit on my board. Yeah, so I will probably work on a couple of these, get the technique right, and then bring you back to show you how I'm going to do it, rather than do it live on camera, because I'm a little bit worried about how it's going to work. Cutting the non-mounted ones will simply be a case of having a ruler and getting a very sharp knife and cutting it very carefully. But these ones that are already mounted, I will bring you along and show you how I manage it when I get to it. But when that is, I don't know. But anyway, that's the result of many hours of cogitation, and I think that I've come up with a solution I'm happy with. Well, it took quite a lot of clamps, quite a few different iterations, and a little bit of taking this out from the front of the cockpit, which you can't see because of the lights, and putting it back in place. Still got a little bit more the return side of the cockpit to put in, but that's now not so bad. The gaps are quite small and it's all fitted together, so I'm very pleased with that. So I'll just finish fixing up the cockpit, put that last bit back on which has fallen off, and then I'll move on to the next steps. But that was the biggest thing that was concerning me, obviously, because yeah, it really wasn't looking like it was going to fit together. So yeah, just a little bit of patience, do a little bit at a time, glue the back, then glue the middle, then glue the front, and what have you, and that worked out really well. Well, there we are. Despite me feeling like I've not done very much, it got up to about 47-50 minutes anyway. I think the reason I felt like I didn't do very much is because, as you've seen, most of it was one project, which isn't normal for me. We had a wonderful trip down to Greece on the Tuesday, which also took a day out, obviously, and I've been pretty exhausted this week. I'm still very tired now, and so I've got a couple of nights where I've just got an early night and done nothing. So I'm not entirely sure how I've managed to fill 45-50 minutes of video, but it is what it is. I obviously talk too much. Anyway, if you've managed to make it this far, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. It's awesome that people do watch my videos. I love it. And do let me know in the comments below what you think, anything that you liked, anything you didn't like. I reply to every single comment, so don't be shy. Do make yourself heard. I will wrap up by saying this Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month, where's this year going? There's another Battle Games Middle Earth video coming out. And as I'm saying at the moment, but hopefully, really hope for not very much longer, but it's not looking very hopeful, that, not looking very likely. If you or anyone you know is impacted by the horrible war going on in Ukraine, my thoughts go out to you, and to anyone that you know. And to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.